Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I think we can probably be pretty brief today. Mostly, I just wanted to get some information out there and to start giving the community a chance to ask questions. Some of you may already be familiar with the work that we're doing here. Some may not. This may be coming as a complete surprise um, to some. um, so we need to migrate our West Campus core, and this is a function of the work that planning, design, and construction is doing on the education building. So planning, design, and construction is decommissioning the education building. I think this is a project that most everyone is familiar with to make way for the new science and engineering complex. However, something that maybe a lot of people don't know is that the education building actually houses our West Campus core node. And so buildings that are on the west side of campus are all connected into the education core. And all of those buildings will need to have their connections migrated to a new core that we have built out in the University Hall building. So right now, based on the meeting that Chris and I just had with PDC, I think it looks like March 2021 is when the actual demolition will begin. I think they will start some mitigation efforts before then, getting hazardous materials and things like that out of the building before we have wrecking balls and the like coming in. Network services would like to target sometime, certainly before then, to actually get everyone migrated. Preferably, we'd like to do this before the spring semester. So I got a couple images here, right? This is what the education building is now, and then this is the graphics for the new science and engineering complex. This is kind of an overview map that I wanted to share. These are the main fiber hubs for campus and what they serve. So all the buildings there that you see represented in pink are served out of the West Campus core. Sometimes, and in the past has been referred to as the academic core. The green buildings are the research core, or typically what I refer to as the East Campus core. And then the blue buildings are medical buildings, and they are primarily serviced by HSIS, but the core in the GSB building is how they get connected back into their core nodes. They also have a new core in the Women's and Infant Center that I didn't really represent here. The orange buildings as well are serviced out of the West Campus core. So it's a good number of buildings. We'll have a full list published to a website that we're putting together now. So you can just go look at the list and determine if your building will be affected. But for the most part, right, if you are on West Campus, you will likely be affected by this move. So as part of the project, UAVIT Network Services, we partnered with Planning, Design, and Construction and CAS IT to deploy our new West Campus core into the University Hall data center. This was constructed for CAS when they built the University Hall out, and we were able to partner with them and use some of their space as an alternate location for our West Campus core. Additionally, and this is a new function, we were able to partner with PDC to build out a new disaster recovery core on the West Campus. So East Campus or the research corps has had a disaster recovery hub for some time. Basically what the disaster recovery is, or the disaster recovery hub, is just an alternate physical pathway for fiber from the buildings. So most buildings, the typical deployment will be that a building will receive 6 pairs of fiber that connect them back to the campus core. Typically, you're only using one of those pairs, the uplink for your building MDF switch back into the campus core. So as part of this project, we're taking 3 of those pairs and we are sending them to the University Hall core, and 3 of those pairs and sending them over to the UBOB core, which is the new disaster recovery hub that we're putting in the UBOB parking deck. And what this allows us to do is if there is a core problem, if the cores go down, or if the West Campus core goes down, there is the possibility now that we can use the fiber that's running to the disaster recovery hub to then join back over to another core node. You either stand up a new core node or to bring all of the building traffic back to the Rust TIC core nodes. Because each one of the major fiber hubs will have a large count of fiber that cross connect between all of them. Additionally, we will be deploying some critical services into the University Hall data center. So things like DNS, DHCP, Active Directory, VoIP will have its secondary nodes all over in University Hall. And eventually, we will have our internet pathways redundant into the University Hall data center as well. Currently, all of the internet is serviced out of Rust. We do have multiple paths that lead out of the Rust building, but a fire, for say, in the Rust building would be detrimental and would knock internet out for campus for a good bit of time. So having a secondary entry location for those services is going to be a benefit to campus as well. And again, all of the fiber hubs have large count cross connects running between them. So we can either stand up temporary services close to one of the fiber hubs, or just reroute services from one of the data centers to one of the other data centers. As part of this migration, obviously there will be some impact. All building network segments currently connected to the education core will need to be physically moved to the University Hall core. Because buildings only have a single uplink now, obviously this means that that building will experience a disruption when the fiber is actually moved. Network is taking steps to try to reduce this risk, and we can let Doug talk about some of that a little bit, but some of it will be logical, meaning that they'll go ahead and have the connections tested and connected on disabled interfaces, and then they'll just do a quick shutdown and activation of ports on your building edge routers or building edge switches, which would mean the disruption might be, just milliseconds, but they could be extended as well. There are approximately 75 buildings that are affected by this and approximately 78 customer network segments. There's a lot more network segments than that, right? But these would be the ones that primarily affect the customer networks. For planning on this, fiber is currently being terminated in both the University Hall and UBOB. That has been an ongoing project now for quite some time. Our network technicians are currently verifying the completed fiber pathways. So once fiber pathways, we believe, have been completed, the network technicians go out, they'll test them, ensure that light is passing over them. We've got some network test equipment that we can test up to 10 gig with. The Phil and Doug have been working on a temporary campus core. It's some of our backup equipment that we have in case we have a failure of core equipment. So they have brought that up. It has had its initial testing done, and they are in the process now of deploying that temporary core over into University Hall. Some of the services, some of the buildings will be migrated to that temporary core. We may be able to start this migration as early as next week. I believe, and again, I'll let Doug comment on this, that we have a maintenance for tomorrow, I believe, to actually move the core and get the core activated. At that point, network will be able to start communicating with the VLAN administrators for each building to schedule when their actual migration would be. Once we have the majority of buildings migrated to the temporary core, Doug and team will schedule a date to actually move the permanent core, the core that's now sitting inside the education building. That will be moved over to University Hall. And then the connections that were currently in the temporary core will be migrated up to the permanent core. So dates on this, right? So we don't have any dates set. We would have liked to have come to this meeting with actual dates. But because of delays with fiber migration and delays with construction and delays related to COVID and any other number of delays, we don't have an exact date right now. I believe that we are looking at having all of the fiber connections made by the 14th. At that point, we should be good to actually give some confirmed dates. But I think we'll be able to start announcing confirmed dates within the next few weeks, which of course will get us to the 14th. And again, the temporary migrations could start as early as next week. So that's pretty much the presentation. Go ahead and open up the floor up to any questions or concerns.
Christian, you had mentioned this a few minutes ago, but do you have an idea about how long the outage would be? I know you just spoke. It could be milliseconds. It could be longer. Do you have a gut feeling about what the real outage time is to make the switch?
Yeah, I'll defer to Doug for that.
Hey, Tommy, it's Doug. I think I was a little bit overly optimistic to say milliseconds, but yeah, we expect it not to be any longer than 5 minutes. And there's going to be two of the outages, one to migrate over to the temporary router, then one to migrate from the temporary router back over to the permanent router. And yeah, it's either going the first one's going to either occur the day of the big move or prior to it, if we get to your building in time. So that should be the extent of the outage, though.
Okay, so it could be about 5 minutes, but the two moves are not occurring at the same time. There's some time span between the move of a building to the temporary setup and then the move again to the permanent setup, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're doing is the techs are establishing a second fiber path from each building entrance switch back to the new location at University Hall. So basically what Christian described earlier was we're going to be shutting off the old port in the core and then bringing up the new port that's in University Hall on the temporary router. And we were planning on trying to do a lot of those after 7 p.m. In the evening as we get those second paths established. We expect that, we're going to, shoot the fiber path with our test equipment. We're going to run it up to 10 gigs, and then, we're going to kind of certify each connection from the building entrance switch all the way to, where it's going to, the jumper that's going to plug into the temporary core router. So we expect that there shouldn't be any issues when we go to shut down one and bring the other link up. It should work, hopefully,
Okay.
unless we have like a bad optic or something that we run into.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and again, the expectation is, right, that this will be a minor disruption, but there is a possibility, right? I do need to throw that out there, right? There is a possibility that this could be an extended disruption. If they, especially on the day when the actual migration is done, right? So once Doug and team pull the core router out of education and physically move the core router over to University Hall, install it, there's no rolling back at that point, right? We're pretty much committed to moving forward. So any issues that they may run into would need to be addressed during that time. And I feel quite likely that they'll be able to deal with anything in short order.
Also, I'd like to add the day of the big move, we'd like to do it on Saturday. It's going to be an all-day event for us to actually migrate the remaining connections off of the core router and remote, and then shut it down, prepare it, unrack it, get it moved up to the new spot in University Hall, rack it up, power it up, get it into the campus network, and then start migrating connections, building connections back to it from the temporary router.
Yeah, and I did get another question, Doug, as to when we would actually set the temporary equipment up in University Hall. I know we would have been several email exchanges around that earlier this week. Are we looking to try to do that tomorrow night?
Well, I think Willie's actually looking at getting it moved down to the new location today, the temporary router, getting it racked, and then Friday night actually turning the port back up on it.
Okay, so we just need to make sure, right, we're coordinating. I don't know if Willie is on this conference. We just need to make sure we're coordinating with CAS IT when we start bringing all that equipment in. Any other questions? So if you do have additional questions, you can, we did set up an email address specifically for this project, coremigration@uab.edu. This will be an ongoing address as well, because we're basically going to be repeating this project when we move from Rust to the new Technology Innovation Center, right? So Rust to TIC. It's going to be this exact same project, right, just on the East Campus core. So you can reach us there. You can also obviously send an email to Ask IT, and we'll certainly respond back to it. We will likely have another one of these meetings. This one got put together at the very last minute, and I certainly apologize for that. And I do appreciate those who were able to attend on such short notice. But we will likely have another town hall meeting just to give other people the opportunity to kind of see what we're doing. But additionally, the network services team will be coordinating directly with the VLAN administrators for the networks that we're moving, right? So we do want to make sure that we're not disrupting any critical operations, or that we're at least taking precautions that we don't do something that's overly impactful to your business operations. So with that, I'll give one last final opportunity for anyone to ask questions. And not seeing any, I'll go ahead and bring this meeting to a close. Again, watch the status announcements we will be posting to status as we go through the project, and we'll also be setting up a website similar to what we did with the VoIP project. Hopefully I'll have that done this week, and we'll have the list of all the buildings that will be affected, and then as we are able to get the firm schedule, we'll try to make sure that that gets updated on that web page. And we certainly appreciate everybody's assistance in this. This was, this is a big project for us. Had a lot of challenges, right? Getting all the fiber run, dealing with COVID and everybody being off campus. But we still have to make the deadline before the education building gets imploded. So we do want to target before the spring semester, if at all possible, but that's not a drop dead date either, right? If there is something that comes up that prevents us from being able to get it done that time, we do have a little bit of extra time. But we certainly want to get everybody migrated out the building so that all their logical communication is going over University Hall, and that gives us plenty of time to get all the rest of the equipment out of the education building. All right, everybody have a safe week, and we'll send some additional updates out later. Thank you.